Chapter 15, Disease, Its Cause, and Cure Continued. Treatment should be taken once or twice a day in a room where the person will not be disturbed. In case any assistant is to help in the treatments, he may be in the same room but should sit some distance back so as not to distract the patient's attention. It will be unnecessary for him to touch the patient except in a case of severe pain. After the patient has made himself comfortable by reclining in an easy chair, he must concentrate for a few minutes so as to get his thoughts well centered upon the treatment. He must then commence giving the mental commands to the body as explained in the previous chapter. If he has an assistant, the patient must not forget to keep the thought in mind that his selected assisted position is helping him by giving him additional courage, strength, and increased strength of will, that with these he may overcome the existing unhealthy conditions. The assistant must also concentrate and center his thoughts upon the patient to the exclusion of all external environments and conditions. He must also make the same commands as the patient and mentally send to him the thoughts of hope, and courage, confidence, energy, and increased strength of will. The patient's mental activity will be stimulated and strengthened by these mental vibrations, and he will experience a feeling of exhilaration and buoyancy as the evidence of new life and new health. If this treatment is repeated daily, the mind will respond and quickly gain control over the physical organs and assist them to perform their natural functions and thus eradicate disease. Mentalism is the power used by the mentalist in curing disease in others. He, through the mind of the patient, controls and operates the physical organs. During the time occupied in treatment, he becomes an active part of the patient, for he assists him to do his thinking. He places the thoughts in his brain and the functions of the body to the dictates of the thoughts which are entertained by the brain. Should the patient fail to obtain complete satisfaction from his first or second trial at self-treatment, he need not become discouraged, but should carefully reread the instructions and try again. A little practice will soon make him master of the situation. The fault may not be his, but that of the other person. That is, if he has had someone assisting him. It would be better for him to depend upon himself than upon the assistance of a person in whom he has not perfect confidence. No person should permit another to tell him he is not looking well. He should absolutely refuse to listen to such remarks and should request the person never to speak to him on that subject again and to cease trying to plant in his brain the cause of disease. One should not permit such idle statements to influence him. Instead, he should remember that these remarks are the result of the habit with most people and that they make them for the purpose of leading him to believe they sympathize with him. He does not need that kind of sympathy, for it will injure him. There should be a law making it a criminal offense to place such unhealthy thoughts in the brains of other people. Half of the great number of people who die before they are 70 are simply murdered by these unhealthful thoughts of others. It has been demonstrated scientifically and conclusively that a perfectly well man can be made sick even unto death by being repeatedly told that he is sick. I will relate an experiment of this kind that has been fully authenticated. All the arrangements for the experiment were made without the victim having any knowledge of them. Mr. J, the person on whom the experiment was made, was a businessman. On a particular morning, he left his home for the office feeling that he was in excellent health. A few blocks from his house, he met an old friend who commented on how ill he was looking and asked him if he were sick. Mr. J only laughed at the suggestion. The idea of him being sick amused him. Before he had gone more than a block further, he met another friend who seemed surprised at his appearance and seriously asked after his health, stating that he had the appearance of one who was going to be quick sick. These and similar statements were repeated to him by a number of other people before he reached his house. Each succeeding one, however, expressed more anxiety than the previous one. By the time Mr. J reached his house, he was not feeling quite so well as when he left his house, for the thought had already taken root. During the morning, a number of people dropped into his office and commented upon his apparent condition. By noon, he was a sick man, and before night, he was home and in bed. During the evening, some of the same people called to see him under the pretext of having heard of his serious illness. They commented upon the seriousness of his condition, its danger, and their fear for his recovery. Within 24 hours, this man who had been enjoying perfect health was brought to death's door by the mental and verbal dictates of his friends. The purpose of this experiment was then revealed to him, but even with the assistance of the healthful thoughts of all those concerned, it took several days to eradicate the disease they had created and to replace it with perfect health. I relate this case simply as an illusion of the effect the thoughts of our friends have upon our health. How innocently and unconsciously people help to spread disease and ill health by wrong thinking and by giving expression to those unhealthful thoughts. If people would only stop and consider the responsibility of entertaining such thoughts, I believe they would cease to be a party to murder. Any physical body that dies before it has reached an extreme old age, except in cases of accident, has either been killed by the unhealthful thoughts of others or by the mind soul which inhabited it. The treatment to be used in case of accidents such as a sprain, dislocation of joint, or a broken bone, a cut, burn, etc., is slightly different from that used for disease. Immediate action is necessary and local applications essential, but the pain can be lessened, if not entirely removed, and the recovery hastened by the use of mentalism. To the mind of the patient must be given the thoughts the conditions are not serious, that he will not feel the pain because there will be no pain, that the affected part will quickly recover its normal action, and that the congestion and inflammation will be quickly removed. He must either by his own mental efforts or through that of others stimulate the circulation of the blood through the affected parts and command the system to supply new material to make the place of that which has been destroyed, and also to eliminate all the dead tissue. Encouraging thoughts and remarks from his associates will hasten the complete recovery. Discouraging and doubtful thoughts and comments will retard recovery. Never permit anyone to remain in the room with the patient if that person's thoughts are not favorable to the recovery. If the patient has a strong will and self-confidence, he will not be as much affected by adverse comments and thoughts as a person having a weak will. If the patient possesses a strong will, he will hasten his own recovery. In fact, anyone with a strong will live through accidents or disease that would kill a person having a weak will. In treating cases of pain such as cramps, neuralgia, rheumatism, headache, toothache, earache, etc., mentalism will prove very effective. All these pains result from a congestion that has caused inflammation of the tissues and nerves. The circulation of the blood must be stimulated in and through the congested parts, that the obstruction may be more quickly removed. The mind of the patient must be directed to the affected part, that it may gain control over it. To do this, the more effectually, place your hand over the seat of pain. Think and instruct the patient to do likewise, that the circulation will be increased and dissolve the congestion and destroy the pain. Keep your mind centered upon the affected part, but in a few moments, divert the thoughts of the patient into another channel, and in a short time say to him, the pain is all gone and you will soon be quite well. Say it with confidence so as to implant the thought firmly in his mind. When you have done this, he will agree with you that there is no pain, and at once he will be well. The object in diverting his thoughts from the affected part is to give you a better opportunity to place the thought of no pain so strongly in his mind that his previous thought of pain will have no further effect upon him. The strongest thought is always the thought that controls. In treating cases of nervousness, hysteria, etc., much the same process is necessary. You must have the patient relax all his muscles and close his eyes. The best results are obtained by having the patient lie flat on his back. Place your hands upon his forehead and stroke it gently. Speak in a modulated tone, making all your movements slowly and gently. Think and at the same time instruct the patient that he is feeling more restful and quiet. If you can get him to sleep, the treatment will be more effective. Implant in his brain the thoughts of relaxation, rest, and quiet. Do not permit him to see or talk to many people, for their thoughts will interfere with those you have given him and keep him in a state of excitement. There is no sphere in life in which one can do so much good as by healing the sick and revealing the suffering of his fellow men. But I would not advise anyone to follow healing as a profession unless he feels himself to desire to cure others. If the work has an attraction for him, and his promptings and mental messages have told him that he is adapted for the work, then he should not neglect the advice, but begin to work at once. The exercise of mentalism for the cure of disease will widen the sphere of usefulness. One should not attempt to treat patients at a distance until he has had sufficient experience in giving local treatments to give him perfect confidence in his ability. Before he can successfully treat anyone at a distance, he must know exactly from what the person is suffering, and then his mental organization must also be in harmony with that of the patient. Thought is power. Victor Hugo.